So now we're on page 9. The Pitchei Tshuva and the Shulchan Aruch is written in the 1800s by Rav Tzvi Hirsch Eisenstadt, says, similar to the Shema, he probably quotes him, Ayem b'Sefer Agudas Ezov. Agudas Ezov is written by Moshe Ze'ev Margoliot. Gaon Moshe Ze'ev, Shekatav Tam Nachum, Ma Deharif Harama Rosh V'Atur Lo Heviot Divrei HaYerushalmi. They don't bring down Mishum Desvirle de Talmuda Didan Pali al Yerushalmi, because our Talmud, the Talmud Bavli, is polig on the Yerushalmi. And then he brings down in the Agudas Ezov, he brings down the Radbaz that Sveka Didei Adif Mivade Techaber, the suffix of you living is more than the vadai of your friend, so you shouldn't put yourself in the suffix. And then, by the way, notice how he says Ayin b'Sefer Agudas Ezov. He doesn't tell you where in Agudas Ezov. I found that in another sefer, which I'll show you a little bit later. But and then he says here, Ulam tzarich lishkol ha'in het im yesh b'suffix sakana. You have to really see if there's a suffix sakana. You can't just say, because in Bav Metzia, we learn later, it says, Amrav Yudah Amrav Kol Mekayim B'atzmo Kach Sof Bali De Kach. Anyone who fastidiously fulfills this principle with regard to this property, at the expense of others' property, ultimately comes to experience that fate. In other words, what comes around goes around. If you're so, you over-exaggerate your risk, well, one day you might have a problem and need other people as well. There is let me just look here on the Agudas Ezov, how he says it. According to the Pitchei Tshuva, he says over here, Yinei Asma, Halav Delo Tamar Adam Reyecha, B'Shem Yerushalmi, just like we said, V'Harif, Rambam, Marosh, V'Atur Shmitu Divrei Yerushalmi, they don't say it. L'Anias Daiti Nira Mishum D'Sfir Le, De Talmuda Didan Pali Gal Yerushalmi, just like it's brought down in the Pitchei Tshuva in his name. And let's go over here. Number 5. The Shulchan Aruch says, Haroa Sfina Sheis Ba Yisrael Mitavras Bayam, Mitzvah Al Kol Adam L'Chal Alam Shabbos Kedei L'Hatzilam. The Mishnah Berurah there explained in the Shulchan Aruch Orach Chaim, Mikol Makom Yesh Sakana L'Hamatzil Ein Mechuyev Dechaye Kodem L'Chaye Chaver Vafilu Safek Sakana Nami Adif Sveko Didei Mivade Dechaver. So he's talking about if there's a boat and there's somebody drowning, you Mechala Shabbos. But the Mishnah Berurah does explain if there is a sakana, then you don't have to put yourself in suffix sakana. Basically, it's rehashing what the Radbaz says. But he also says in Yesh suffix sakana below ledaktik biyoter, and he quotes this Pitchei Tshuva, which quotes this Bav Metzia. So you see everything. It nicely fits. The Or Sameach, which is written by Meir Simcha HaKohen Devinsk in the late 1800s, brings down a fascinating thing. If you're in Gullus, somebody's in Gullus because they committed Misa by accident, but this person can save other people. So how come he is not Hakola Eno Yotze Meir Miklato Leolam Afilu Kol Yisrael Tzrichen Lechuas? It doesn't go out. Why? Rabbeinu, so the Or Sameach explains, Halo Pikuach Nefesh Dacha Kol Mitzvah Shabbatara Rak Neged Adei Ela Lahosi V'Acharei Mitzvahs Yoter Teva. We don't have to run after mitzvahs more than nature. Ki Imicha Echam Lev. Because if the Goel Hadam comes, he's allowed to get him. Since we allow the Goel Hadam, since we allow the Goel Hadam to kill the man who is trying to come out in order to save the whole world, therefore we extend this to show that you don't have to put yourself in a suffix sakana in order to save somebody from a sakana vadais. Muchach means that the low goes my minus. Shema yerushalmi. It's not like the yerushalmi. The chayav lahachnis atzmo suffix sakana. So the Or Sameach on the Mishnah Torah basically is trying to show us that this is a proof that you do not have to put yourself in a suffix sakana to save somebody from a sakana vadois. That's interesting. What's fascinating is that the Meshech Chachma, also written by Meir Simcha Kohen Dvinsk, who wrote the Or Sameach, it says in the pasuk in Shmos, Lech Shuv Mitzrayim, Ki Mesu Kol Ha'anashim V'Vakshim Nafshecha. Go to Mitzrayim because all the people that were going after you, Moshe, have died. Muchach Di'im Hayu Chayim HaMevakshim Es Nafsho Lo Haya Tzarich Lelich. That if the people were alive that were asking for you to die, you wouldn't have to go. Afal Pi Shekol Yisrael Tzrich Melav. Even though all of Israel needed him. Eino tzarech lahachnis atzmo b'sakana. So in other words, you don't have to. And then he quotes Mizeh Yatzel Rabbeinu Mishnah Shagola Li'er Niklat Afilu Kol Yisrael Tzrichim Elav Kiyov Ben Zerura Eino Yotze Va'Ein Or Sameach Hilchas Rutzech B'Zeh. That's what we looked up over here, the Or Sameach Hilchas Rutzech. But the bottom line is that you don't have to put yourself in a suffix sakana in order even to save all of Israel. We learned that from Lech Shuv Mitzrayim, Ki Mesu Kol Ha'anashim HaMevakshim Es Nafshecha. Because if they were still alive and they were coming after you, you wouldn't have to put yourself in that suffix in order to save everybody else. That's a fascinating idea by the Meshech Chachma, by Meir Simcha Kohen Dvinsk, and also quoting the Hilchas Rotzeach, Shmiras Nefesh, by the Gola, not needing to risk his life to save all of Israel because of fear of the Gol Hadam. So how can you determine what a suffix sakana is? So the Shevet Yehuda, first of all, by the way, this is where I found out where it was, Agudas Ezav Daf Gimel Amud Beis. That's how I found the source back up here, about where the Pischei Tshuva quoted the Sefer Agudas Ezav, but didn't tell us where. So I found it by looking at the Shevet Yehuda. But anyway, how can you tell the suffix sakana, what that really means? So v'nira li ki ha'adara peshuta al yedei zeh shenarich es midas hasakana bekavanaso shel ha'ish lahatzil es rechusho minezek. The way to determine what a suffix sakana is that you look at how much you would go for it to save your own property from damage. The way has to be like this. If you would refrain from jumping into the river to save your rechush, your property that's floating away, because of the chashash sakana shel kfiras hamayim, because of the danger of the freezing water, that would be nearest yes possessed suffix sakana. O shayabuchan hafker es charasa v'chafetza uvilvad sheli yitzdarech latzis lamakom hanitala v'chadome. Not sure what that means, but what? Ulam im mipnei nezek gadol, if it was lo haya nimna zeh, if despite the nezek, despite the damage, you lo haya nimna zeh, you still wouldn't refrain. Mochiach ki be'emes ein kan sakanas vadai mechuyav lavo le'ezras chavero shnemar lo tamar al damrecha. This is a pashut. So basically what he's saying is, if you're willing to jump into water to save your wallet, then you know that that's that type of danger, that's not a real suffix sakana. That's when you should lo tamar al damrecha. That's the whole idea of the b'metzia kol mekayim b'atzma kach sof bali de kach. That's the. Would you jump in? Would you jump in and try to save the day? So that is page 9.